Welcome back, it's me Lou, and I'm here for another action figure unboxing and review, and we are looking at this Marvel Spider-Man Far From Home, and this belongs to the Concept series. Okay, confession time. I remember seeing this line of toys at Target. I'd make my Target runs early in the morning on my way to work, and some of these toys looked really silly to me. I think this might have been one of them. I'd look at it and I'm like, who the hell wants that? And then flash forward a few years later, I purchased some of the more budget Hasbro Avenger toys, like the Avengers Mech Strike, and it just kind of really took me back to why I actually do like some of the budget action figures. And as I played around with them more and reviewed more action figures, I'm like, there's something to be said about these cheaper figures. And I kind of realized that I think one of the reasons why I was so drawn to them again is that fact that I said this in a previous I said this in a previous video. I said that playing around with the cheaper figures, I felt more like a kid than versus playing with like a more like maybe like a $20 action figure. There's something about the way these cheaper figures are designed. They're clearly made for children, especially it says ages 4 and up. So I just kind of realized, I'm like, wow, handling these cheaper toys, it feels like a callback to my childhood. Even just the way they're packaged. Like Marvel Legends stuff is cool. It's nice that you get them in a much more protective box. But part of the experience for me with these cheaper figures is that I kind of like figures on with the blister on the card. It's a tactile thing. It's like when you're a kid and you get an action figure for the first time and you rip the bubble off the card. Whereas with the Marvel Legends and the Black Series and G.I. Joe Classifieds and like WWE Elites, they come in these boxes. And then you kind of if you're more like me and you're in a collector mindset, you're like, am I going to keep the box because I want to keep the figure in the box? And then you have to splice the tape, pull the tray out. Whereas when you're a kid, you get these things and you just rip the bubble right off the card. And then as silly as some of these designs look, like, you know, I scoffed at this a few years ago. When I was online on Amazon just combing through action figures, and I'm like, I saw this came up and I'm like, you know what? Let's give this a shot. Because I remember when I was younger that even though I liked Batman figures that looked like the iconic Batman and the gray and the blue, or the black and the gray, or the Batman with the oval classic logo. I mean, I'd sometimes actually be more drawn to the weirder versions of Batman, like, you know, Batman like maybe like an Arctic armor, or Batman with like jet wings and stuff like that. Just because the playability and the enjoyment value seemed a little bit higher. And I think if I'm a kid, that even though this is a different version of Spider-Man, the fact that he looks different and he comes with all these cool accessories, I don't know, I think it kind of reaches to your imagination a little bit more. It's like, why is he wearing these funky goggles with like a laser sighting on his head? You know, why does he have this giant cannon? And I'm not sure if it's just as you grow older and become an adult that maybe become jaded and bitter or married to certain things, but I don't know. I mean, it's just a cool idea, and I'm excited to take a look at this. So I'm kind of like eating my words from what I said before back, you know, when I looked at this and I thought it was crap. Because right now I'm looking at it and I'm like, wow, I'm really excited. I gotta check this guy out. So here we are. It's Spider-Man. This is from the Far From Home movie, but this isn't an actual figure from the movie. In no way does this represent the Spider-Man character as he appeared in the film. I think that's why they gave it the Concept series. So if you're an older collector like me, it gives you an excuse to like, okay, this is why it looks different, because maybe this was based off concept art that wasn't used. And on the back, nice glamour shot of this version of Spider-Man. It says Peter Parker suits up with enhanced gear to fight his enemies. And we have a couple of other Spider-Man figures here from the line. We have The Stealth Spider-Man, it kind of resembles what he looked like in that other outfit. Then we have another Spider-Man. And we have Molten Man. It's kind of weird they didn't give this guy a different... Like, even though they call him Concept Series, it's weird that they just call him plain Spider-Man. You know, it's like, why didn't they call him, like... you know, like stealth ability or cloaking ability Spider-Man, because he looks like he's kind of like made of a transparent plastic. You know, maybe this is some sort of like undercover Spider-Man or something. Alright, we're going to open this guy up. Like I said, there's something very nostalgic about ripping a bubble off a card. You don't get that with the boxed figures. So we have Spidey here in his plastic tray. And first impressions before I take him out. I'm not sure if the camera's capturing what I'm seeing, but I kind of like this shade of blue a lot. It's very reminiscent of the kind of blue that you might find on a Captain America figure. It's not very loud. It's a little bit more subdued. And it's kind of neat how it looks like it's the toys casted in clear plastic, and then the blue's painted over it. So it's really neat how you can kind of see through the figure. Alright, first impressions as I take this out of the box. It's very basic, and as you can see here, it's not assembled properly. There's a giant gap running down his side. So I'm not sure if is this something I have to fix? And right, another thing that to be careful of is that clear plastics, they're a lot more brittle. So you have to handle them carefully because they will crack. This isn't a soft rubbery plastic. Clear plastic, it's going to be brittle. It's going to be a lot harder. And it's kind of, as excited as it was for this figure, it's kind of bumming me out that the one I got is defective. And I'm trying to see if I can, right, I still have movement of the leg. Ooh, that doesn't sound nice. Okay, I'm trying to close this. Oh, shit. Alright, as you can see, there's a giant gap in his crotch. I don't see that very often in my toy videos. But it looks like if I close the leg in, it brings it back. Alright, this does... I'm guessing that maybe something's warped on the inside. And that's why it's not allowing me to close it. I could attempt to fix it later. Yeah, I just want to close in. It's kind of a shame because I actually am liking this figure a lot as I'm looking at it. It doesn't bother me too much because if I'm looking at the figure from the front, it doesn't bother me. But once you look at it from the side, then you'll notice the gap. But I'm not freaking out that bad. My OCD isn't like going nuts right now. You know, my OCD sense, it's like my spider sense. I could live with this. It's not like I'm playing with it. But it's a neat figure. It's just unfortunate that the one I got's defective. So, I don't know. I might have to hunt down another one that's better. God, I wish I could figure out how to fix this. Alright, so what I'm thinking of is that I'll probably take the head off, because the head is... I'll do that later. I'll move the head, and then I'll see if I can wedge something in here and just gently pry the figure apart and see if I can snap this body, the torso, back into separate pieces, and then I'll try to reglue it. But for now, let's just take a look at the figure. Design-wise, it's pretty neat. Look at that. It's a cool costume for Spider-Man. It's easy justifiable in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, too, as why he'd have all these different outfits, since he's affiliated with Stark Industries. Articulation, ball joint on the head, shoulders go out, spin around, elbow swivel. But as it's always a mixed bag with the Hasbro cheaper figures, is that with the legs, it's like some of the more recent ones, like this Iron Man, he can kick out, and then he can bend at the elbow. I mean, at the knees, and the knees actually even swivel. Whereas this guy, he just has that. It's almost like the 80s kind of like articulation where the leg just goes up. The quality of it's decent. You can see here where the plastic, where he was probably connected to a sprue and it was cut off. But it's a neat figure. If I was a kid, I'd be stoked on this. I'm kind of stoked on it as an adult. If this figure wasn't defective, I'd probably give this an easy 7 out of 10. That's how much I like this. And which way does this go? Oh, okay. Head on backwards. All right, I don't know how to use this. I'm like, all right, so it shoots in. Okay, so these aren't the ones that are spring loaded. You actually have to use some force to push it out. Unless I'm doing it wrong, which might be the case. Yeah, I don't know how you're supposed to shoot this out. On some of these kind of rocket launchers, sometimes all it takes is to press the back a little and they'll shoot out. But this one doesn't want to shoot out. It seems like you have to actually, yeah, you have to use force to actually push it out. So, and it shoots pretty hard too. So if you want to take your Spider-Man and have him shoot this, if you want to have him shoot his load, this white gob onto the Hulk, go ahead. So yeah, all right, I'm gonna overlook this and just say that this is a great figure. I'm kind of curious about the other concept figures. After this video is over, I'm gonna try to take this apart and fix it. I have enough faith in my toy customizing abilities that I'm gonna try that. I just don't know what's going on. I think it's like I said. I think the plastic's just warped on the inside, and it's not allowing the peg to sit flush. And if I break it, I'll try to hunt down another one. But I think all it takes is to heat the plastic up so it's soft enough and loosen up any glue, and I might be able to take it apart. I'll see. It doesn't bother me too much, just enough where I'm curious to see if I could do it. Alright, let's compare it to some other budget figures. So we have budget Spider-Man, budget Endgame Cap, budget Endgame Hulk. And the scale's pretty decent. You know, Peter Parker's still a kid, so this Hulk needs to be like twice as large though. But it's a $9 figure, and it's alright. I hate this friggin' costume though, it's stupid. And then here's from the Gamerverse Avengers game, it's Iron Man in his Orion armor. So since it's like I said, these figures for some reason the paint's just flaking off all of them. I've never had that issue before. Alright, so since we're on the subject of budget Spider-Man figures, this one's my favorite budget Spider-Man figure. It's the Iron Spider from Avengers Infinity War. I'm not going to open this. I have an entire set of these figures on card, and they're all hanging on a wall, and they look beautiful next to each other. I love the package design of this. It's so much more colorful than the Endgame one. If you go back and watch a couple videos back, I've been reviewing some Endgame budget figures, and they're on these very plain white cards, and they seem like an afterthought. Whereas the Infinity War stuff, it looked beautiful. I know a lot of collectors are more concerned about buying the Marvel Legends figures at the time, and they really overlooked these budget Infinity War figures, but they're awesome. The sculpting detail, it's awesome. It's really nice. The articulation leaves a lot to be desired, but as a toy, it's a awesome figure. If I was a kid, I'd be all over this. I'm an adult, and I think this is the bee's knees. It's awesome. So this is a cool guy. Even though they're both representative of the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, this one looks a little bit bigger, which is alright. Here's another budget figure, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. So this is from the movie that showcased Miles Morales and like Gwen Stacy and Peter Parker. This is the Peter figure. It's very basic, as you can tell. You know, you're not getting a lot of articulation with this guy. The paint scheme, traditional Spider-Man, very, very basic. It looks like it's red plastic with blue paint. But if you're a kid, you're going to love it. It's Spider-Man. I love it. Alright, we have another Spider-Man here. This is Spider-Man Homecoming, and this is from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This is a decent Spider-Man. I like the costume. I'm more fond of, to be honest, the older Sony Spider-Man movies, the ones done by Sam Raimi. That costume, it just looked perfect. This one's, you know, it's a little bit closer to the comic book ones, but I wasn't too keen on the kind of like black pinstriping on it. It's a nice figure. I appreciate the fact that they included the webbing under his arms. And lastly, here's a quick look at my favorite Spider-Man figure. This is the Marvel Select Spider-Man. It's in a giant box. It doesn't fit under my document camera, so I can't frame it. I can't put it all into frame. The Marvel Select stuff's beautiful. The figures are larger than the Marvel Legends. They're about more leaning towards the 7-inch scale. This guy comes with a cool chimney rooftop display, multiple hands. The one thing that's absent from him that would make him a perfect figure is that fact that he doesn't come with a Spider-Man head. He just has Peter Parker. There's no masked head. And I wasn't sure if maybe later on they released a variant where he came with a head. That could have been the case. But this is one of my favorite Spider-Man figures, if not my favorite Spider-Man figure. It's hung up on the wall next to some of my other Marvel Select figures. I said this in another video. Marvel Select stuff, in my opinion, even though they have all the points of articulation that a Marvel Legends has, I think even more so in some cases, they're meant to be posed, not meant to be played with. So these are great display pieces, and the fact that I can still keep it in the box and use it as a display piece says a lot about it. But the backs, you know, they're always very generic. They just give you like a quick shot of what the figure looks like. You know, I would prefer a little bit more, you know, like a bio or something. So yeah, here's Concept Series Spider-Man. If it wasn't flawed, you know, with this manufacturing defect, I'm still gonna say it's a 7.5. 7.5. It's a great figure. It doesn't bother me that much that the one I got's kind of wacky, because, and honestly, this might just go back into a bin with my other Spider-Man figures, and I'll probably take it out on a rainy day just to fiddle around with. So yeah, it's cool. He comes casted in transparent plastic. He has some neat gadgetry on him. Looks like he's going to play laser tag or something. So, I recommend this figure if you can find it. Don't pay a lot for it. Just pay retail or under. That's what I'm going to say. It's not worth paying more than $10 for. But that doesn't mean it's not a great figure. It's awesome. So once again, my name is Lou. Thanks for spending some time with me, and I'll see you again soon. Take care.